Thanks again for visiting our project page on ResearchGate. This is the time for us to give you another project update. This is Yu-Chun, currently a postdoc jointly hired by Michigan State University and the USGS Great Lakes Science Center. This project also includes Mark Rogers, Bob O'Neill, Alexis Sakas, also from USGS, and another 34 co-authors from 19 different countries. For today's update presentation, I will first give an introduction about this project. Then I will talk through our approach, our method, and finally I'll talk about our current progress and the future work. So first of all, why are we doing this? Or the question should be, why is there very limited understanding of climate change and the land use effects on lake fisheries? This is largely because managers and researchers have been more focused on eutrophication and invasive species, as they have caused more abrupt and drastic changes in lake ecosystems. Why should we care about lake fisheries? First, they can be profitable. This is especially true for recreational fisheries in developed countries. For example, my friend Joe, he has spent a lot of money for fishing gears and fishing license. Secondly, in developing countries, lake fisheries provided important sources for food and nutrient. If you eat fish as a whole, they provide a lot of micronutrients you need. However, many lake ecosystems have been stressed by human activities, and many lakes have been altered for irrigation or hydropower purposes. As I addressed before, our objective is to understand effects of climate change and land use on fisheries production in global lakes. Our approach is to analyze historical data between 1970 and 2014. We use this approach because we believe we should be able to detect effects in this period given observed changes in climate and land use. In the method section, I will first introduce our conceptual model, which we used to identify data needs. And then I will talk about what we actually got and how we use our data to develop a Bayesian network model. This is our conceptual model. The basic idea is climate and land use changes in the watershed would result in changes in lake environment. Then changes in lake environment together with changes in fisheries activities would result in changes in fisheries harvest. With this conceptual model, we started to search for data. To begin with, we looked for lakes with available statistics for fisheries harvest. Then we checked whether data for water quality, water quantity, and the fisheries activities are available in these lakes. So you can see we did not get everything we want in these lakes. And then we checked whether data for climate and land use are available at a watershed scale. At the watershed scale, we also introduced factors to categorize lakes, such as ice cover and water security. Water security is basically a measure of water use relative to available water input. We expect lakes in different categories would respond to the same changes in climate or land use differently. That's the reason we want to categorize these lakes. In the process of finding available data, We first initiated a global collaboration for collecting available fisheries statistics and empirical lake environment data across the globe. We sent out a lot of emails in which we asked for everything we want. However, as you have seen in previous slide, we did not get all of them. We used several global data sets to derive some of our modeling variables, including lake temperature, lake chlorophyll, watershed climate, and watershed land use. We also found a global data set for historical population from FAO. However, we have not decided whether to use this data set or not. Very soon after we started to find available data, we experienced a problem, which is the discrepancy between hotspots of lakes and data and the hotspots of lake fisheries. As you can see in the map, hotspots of lakes and data are in North America and Europe. However, hotspots of lake fisheries are in Southeast Asia and East Africa based on FAO inland fisheries statistics. In order to make this project truly global, we spent a lot of time finding data in those hotspots of lake fisheries. At the end, we are able to find enough data for 31 lakes across 5 different continents. For our analysis, you can see the distribution of these 31 lakes in this map, and you can see they are different in terms of water security. After a long process of compiling available data, we started to build our Bayesian network model. I will explain why we want to use this method in the following slide. In the conceptual model, the linkages between watershed variables and the lake variables and the fisheries harvest look quite simple. However, in reality, these variables are linked in a very complicated way. In other words, these variables are interrelated and thus becomes a network. By using a Bayesian network model, we can take advantage of its hierarchical structure to better represent how these variables are mechanistically linked. Now, I am going to report our current progress and use an illustrative example to show what we want to achieve in this project. About our current progress, we have obtained data for all 31 lakes and have finished data quality assurance and standardization for 16 of them. While we continue working on data quality assurance and standardization, we are also exploring how variables should be linked in the Bayesian network model by using multiple linear regression. We need to know how variables are linked before we can program our Bayesian network model into a computer. In the following slides, I will use an illustrative example to show how our Bayesian network model will work. Results in the following slides are preliminary, based on our current multiple linear regression models and the data for 14 lakes in North America, South America, and Asia. In this slide, I am going to show you how our Bayesian network model works. Orange boxes in this slide are watershed variables of climate and land use. Blue boxes here are lake environment variables of water quality and water quantity. First, we have a water temperature model, in which we use the watershed temperature and the ice cover to predict water temperature in the lake. Then predicted water temperature together with precipitation, and land use in the watershed will be used to predict water level. Then predicted water temperature and water level, together with some watershed variables, will be used to predict chlorophyll. Now we have all three lake environment variables predicted. All of them will be used together with fisheries variables to predict fisheries harvest. Our squares in this slide are based on multiple linear regression models, so they are not finalized yet. However, you can see we may have better models for water temperature, chlorophyll, and harvest. We still need to find a better way to link watershed variables to water level. In this illustrative example, we used our multiple linear regression models to predict how fisheries harvest may change from a year 2000 baseline to a future scenario, in which there will be 2 degrees Celsius increase in air temperature and a 20% decrease in precipitation. We also assumed that 1% of watershed area will be transformed from cropland to undeveloped area in this scenario. This is because cropland in majority of watersheds in this study have been decreasing in our study period. First, we are showing predicted changes in water temperatures and water levels. In this figure, bars represent modeled water temperatures in the baseline and in the scenario. The model predicted water temperatures will increase by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius across the lakes. Black line in this figure represents predicted changes in water level. For lakes with water level regulation, such as Lake Biwa, Lake Oneida, Lake Cinco, we assumed there will be 0.1 meter decrease in water level. For lakes without water level regulation, our model predicted there will be 0.5 to 1.2 meters decreases in water level. Then we predicted changes in chlorophyll, as shown in this figure. Our model predicted there will be 3 to 22% decreases in chlorophyll concentration across these lakes. You can also see chlorophyll concentrations are very different across these lakes. We had to present these concentrations at a log scale in this figure. Finally, as shown in this figure, our models predicted there will be 1 to 14% decreases in fisheries harvest across these lakes. So, what have we learned from this exercise? Most importantly, we learned that effects of climate and land use changes on lake fisheries would highly depend on current conditions of a lake, such as its traffic state. Secondly, we learned that fisheries harvests are more directly linked to chlorophyll and water level, based on our fisheries harvest model. However, these two variables can be linked to water temperature, climate, and watershed land use. About our future work. First, we will finish data quality assurance and standardization. We still need to do this for European and African lakes. Secondly, we will explore how variables are linked and how lakes may be categorized. After doing all of this, we will start our basin network modeling. We hope all of this can be done in this summer. Again, thank you for visiting our project page on ResearchGate. If you want to know what other inland fisheries project we are working as a group, you can visit infish.org. If you have any question, you can leave a message here on our project page. Thank you.